Bro, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Jake, where you been, bro?
I'm here. What's going on?
You know who I am?
Did you expect us to know you when you came up here? Is that a real question?
Jake knows me.
Oh, maybe this is a personal question. Okay, go ahead.
No, Jake. No. I mean, we can talk about something. Yeah, but Jake.
I wasn't looking at my screen.
Yeah, Jake knows. We used to roll in Facebook groups and debate each other.
What's your name, man? Stop hiding behind the PFP.
No, I'm John.
Nice to meet you, John. What's your religion?
Christian. I'm a Christian pastor.
And are you a Trinitarian?
I am.
Are you Catholic, Protestant, or Orthodox?
So I'm Protestant, but I hold the monarchical.
Okay, sure. Jake, you want to talk to John here?
Yeah, I know.
Well, I know Jake knows what he's talking about. He's sat down with the people I get my model from. So
why don't you become Muslim if he knows what he's talking about?
Oh, well, I mean, knowing the material and knowing what you're talking about doesn't mean it's true. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. It comes down to what the Muslim believes is true and what the Christian believes is true.
So where are we going? Where am I going wrong with my argument against the Trinity being three gods?
Yeah, so I think ultimately, like, you could say there's three gods in a sense, but it's only by predication. So like I take Sijuade's model of, and I didn't used to do this, so you and I actually haven't talked about this. I saw you up here, I'm like, holy crap, I know that guy. So Sijuade's model of one God by identity and two by predication, to which there's like ontological equality. I actually think that, one, there's no logical problem there. Would you agree? There's like, the LPT doesn't work if there's one God by identity and two by predication.
It doesn't mean by work. I mean, it's just basically admitting that there's multiple gods, which in that case, yeah, if you admit that, then there's a poly.
So this is where, now I am curious, because I don't think I've heard your response to Sijuade on like how he avoids polytheism and just goes into tripersonal monotheism.
In what sense?
Yeah, so just in the sense of...
Because I just had a debate with him a couple days ago. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, no, I had no idea. I'll have to check it out.
I literally just had a debate with him like less than a week ago.
Okay, is it on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on my channel.
Okay.
And
I'll check it out.
I also did a review of the debate, and I mentioned the criticism of his model still resulting in three gods from Bo Branson. And his response was just to say, I mean, you can judge it for yourself, but this is what he said, that there are three divine beings or three things that are divine, but there are not three gods. And I just thought that was really a ridiculous response.
So, from what I understand about his model, is he takes the word God to be ambiguous, which I would agree. I think the word God ultimately is just going to be representing a category distinction. In the same way we can classify and categorize, certain things. We can do it with animals. We can do it with amphibians. We can do it with mammals. We use these semantics in order to classify and categorize these specific types of things. So from what I understand about his model, and I've talked with other people as well, from what I understand is just this notion of God is an ambiguous term. It's a categorization to separate the divine from the human.
Yeah.
So if we take the ambiguity of God, right, we're not saying there's three gods, because if you say there's three gods, three divine persons, I don't have an issue with. Three gods is where we're going to represent more of an idea of okay, are you using, when you say there's three gods, how are you using the term God there? Are you using it by identity? Because if you use it by identity, then like no Christian, well, okay, I can't say no Christian. Most intelligent Christians, they're not going to agree with three gods by identity. So God there is not the subject when you say there's three gods, but rather on the monarchical view, there's one God the Father, and then, you know, two divine persons that share ontological equality. So when you say there's three gods, that would just be my question. If you're using identity, I would agree there's three gods, but I don't see why saying there's three gods and it not being by identity is like problematic.
No, I'm saying that there's three gods by predication.
Well, so, but three gods by predication, that's not really the monarchical sense.
Well,
because it's going to say there's one God the Father by identity, and then there's two by predication. And so there's an equivocation happening on God. And like, obviously, the equivocation is recognized. But the equivocation that's happening on God necessitates that it cannot be that there is three gods by identity, and it cannot necessitate that there are three gods by predication. Because if you do three gods by predication, now you've entered into relative identity. You've gone more into like Bo Branson and like I had a conversation not long ago with Ryan Mullins, and he holds to like a relative identity view or a fuzzy logic view of the Trinity.
I mean, I can't comment on Mullins, but about Branson, his response is that what he calls the equivocation solution, or basically what you're appealing to and what Josh is saying, is that the word God is ambiguous, and so to get out of the apparent contradiction, we equivocate on the term God. In one sense, there's one God who is the Father alone, and then in another sense, there's, I mean, Josh didn't want to explicitly say this, but this is pretty much where it goes. There would be more than one God in a different sense, in the sense of divine persons. And Branson has a problem with that because, as I read from his text in the debate with Josh, that it would mean that there's one God in one sense and there's more than one God in another sense, and he deems that as problematic. And then his further response, Branson, is to say that we should count
just out of curiosity. Just out of curiosity. Yeah, just out of curiosity. Yeah. So I'm familiar with Branson's work, but just out of curiosity, like, why would it be problematic? So like, me as a Trinitarian, I want to say what I need to say, like, explicitly and specifically, right? I want to say, yes, there is one God the Father, but this monotheistic God is tripersonal in virtue of, you know, the Son and the Spirit. So the Son and Spirit, they have, for every intrinsic divine attribute that the Father possesses, the Son and the Spirit possess equally. So on that notion, I don't understand why it seems like the Christian just doesn't like to say the words. But if you're saying, hey, one God by identity and two by predication, and you're equivocating on the term, I don't see why that would be an issue. Because the language I would use, the semantics, because of the ambiguity of God, I would just say, you know, there are three divine persons within the Trinity, and by divine there, we're going to prioritize the Father as being the source, or the essential fundamentality, and then we're going to charge the Son and the Spirit of, you know, Son proceeding of the Father, and then the Spirit spiration. But the thing that actually convinced me of this model, Jake, because you and we haven't talked for years, and I've upped my game tremendously by the people I hang out with. But
do I know them?
You might, you know Michael Jones, Exploring Reality. Well, he's actually, his name's Than.
Yeah.
So Than, he's part of Exploring Reality. There's a guy named Tim who does doxastic mastery, worldview mastery.
So you hang out with him in what sense, like online or in person?
We've done both. So I actually I got Than here, and he he did a debate at my church, and it was with Matt Dillahunty of all people.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah. Anyway, the thing that just doesn't bug me, and the thing that convinced me of this model more than anything else, is one, I do think it accurately handles the LPT, and two, I think it, like this is why Sijuwade calls it the conciliary model of the Trinity, is because I think it is represented within our earliest, I think it's best represented by Scripture, right? I think you can maintain, so all of the notions in which we say, okay, where Jesus says, like, the Father is greater than I, there's like this hierarchical difference rather than like an ontological difference. I don't really have an issue with that. But also within the early church specifically, this conciliary model of the Trinity seems to just fit the data like Nicaea and the ecumenical councils. Now, I'm not Orthodox. I don't really care that deeply about the ecumenical councils. Ultimately,
right?
Yeah, it's not that I reject them. It's that I never really paid attention to them.
No, but I'm saying in reference to our conversations about Jesus and Christology and him having a human soul and all of that stuff, you used to reject that, right? I don't know if you still do.
Yeah, so this is where I kind of lean. I really like Sijuwade's models that he presents. So like the I think it's called the transformation composition model.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the transformation composition model is the maintaining of, the dispositional nature of the divine, in which it is distinct from all humans in relation to like some extrinsic property or something.
But in that sense, Sijuwade, which he also admitted that he changed his position on Christology, and his previous position that I debated him on about that maybe like 5 years ago, he essentially admitted he lost the debate because one of the arguments that I used against his position in that...
Hey, Jake, sorry, I got a phone call. I haven't heard anything that you said after I said the transformation composition model.
Yeah, I'm just saying that he changed his position on that. He didn't used to hold that, which is fine. But with the transformational model, I think the problem is, especially for him, not as much you since you're a Protestant, but the problem is that it contradicts the creeds and the councils, because his position is that Jesus is, even in his divine nature, goes from being omniscient in a current or an actual sense to being omniscient or omnipotent in a dispositional or merely potential sense.
Yeah, so this is actually this is where I deviate from like orthodoxy in the sense of like the orthodox beliefs or whatever. So I actually hold to a view of kenosis, to where we're not representing like a person, because this is something I don't even think you and I talked about, but this is something where it's like, okay, if you maintain the unity of the Trinity, it's almost like it's similar, not exact. So I'm not trying to do a one-to-one analogy here. But have you seen the movie Avatar? I'm not talking The Last Airbender. I'm talking like, the blue people.
My name is Jake.
Okay. So that's fair. Yeah, so it seems like that would be the type of thing you have happening within the incarnation under a non-canonic model. or a non-kenosis model. So you have this notion in which there's the person, the Son, that is unified to the Trinity in a divine sense, that is, in some sense.
Sorry, John, just 1 second, because some people didn't get my corny joke. The main character in the movie's name is Jake. That's what the joke was supposed to be. Sorry, guys. Go ahead, John.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So it seems like, to me, under just like an Orthodox model, there's going to be, in some sense, a person of the Trinity in a divine sense in heaven, and a person of in the human sense on earth. And it's almost like that there's an avatar thing kind of going on, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And you're saying you reject that, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, so I take more of the view of like, okay, he truly emptied himself, but he maintains. So an example that I kind of give off of this is like the story of the prince and the princess and the frog, right? Mm-hmm. So you have a sense in which, you know, there's an actual ontological transformation that takes place, but the ontological transformation, it still maintains a dispositional attribute. So that dispositional attribute is going to be such as that you maintain divinity dispositionally while truly becoming everything ontologically, as like the prince turning into a frog, right? Now the difference here is going to be that the frog that is the prince has a dispositional quality that he shares with no other frogs, right? This specific frog, he has the nature of a frog, he has the body of a frog, he has like all of the accidental properties of a frog, all of these things. The frog has everything to be considered a true frog in The Princess and the Frog, but there's one dispositional quality that the frog has that is something no other frog has, and that's the ability to be kissed and, you know, turn back into a prince. So this is sort of an explanation, again, not a one-to-one analogy necessarily, but an analogy in which you can maintain true divinity dispositionally and true humanity occurrently.
yeah, I mean, I think like I see the motivation for it because Josh explained this in a conversation that he had with Stephen Nemish. I'm not sure if you saw that discussion.
Yeah. I did see that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just basically respond in the same way that Stephen does. That I think that the maneuver is one that Josh and others who hold this position. By the way, Mullins holds a similar view. Because I've spoken to him about this directly, but
yeah, I have a video with him. So I did a whole interview with him on the incarnation, Orthodoxy, and everything. I still haven't uploaded it, but once I upload it, I can shoot it your way. I think we're still friends. No, with Mullins.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
So we did like an Old Testament thing, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I had a very brief exchange with him about it that where he basically said the same thing. But what I'm saying is the problem is from a quote unquote Orthodox or Catholic with a lowercase c perspective, the view would be considered heretical. And I understand that Josh and Mullins and others, including yourself, are more concerned with dealing with the logical problem. And so to get out of the logical problem, a heretical position is great. Now, I know that you don't really care that much about that.
Josh does because he's Orthodox. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I'm saying that Josh is going to have a problem because one of the reasons he left Catholicism was because he felt that his Trinitarian view was not consistent with what Catholicism taught. So he became Orthodox and thought it was more amenable to that. But I'm saying maybe that's the case in the case of his Trinitarian view, but in the case of his Christological view on Jesus, I think he'd still have the same problem. His view would be considered heretical. Now, I guess my main criticism would be that, from my point of view, in order for a being to be fully divine or fully God, its powers or attributes or knowledge, let's say, for example, must be occurrent. Like God's knowledge and his full power must be occurrent. It's not something merely dispositional, like an on and off switch that he can turn on and off when he pleases. That's not the normal way in which I wouldn't even say Muslims, but theists in general understand God's maximal abilities and attributes. Is that it's understood that God is God in an occurrent sense, not merely dispositional, like an on-off switch. So that's the main criticism that I would have. On the logical point of view, I see, the motivation for it, but I would just say that this is not like this would be for Josh. It would be, from an internal critique point of view, would be considered heretical. But I understand you're less concerned with that.
Yeah. I'm a heretic in virtue of just I dissent from Orthodoxy on a number of different things, and so do most Protestants, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I hold to I hold to like a progressive revelation in which, I think God is great, and I think his greatness. So one of my favorite scriptures, or has become one of my favorite scriptures, is where it says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but it is the wisdom of kings to seek it out." So I think this notion is God in the Old Testament. I think there's some allusions to Trinitarianism that you could employ, right? But I don't think I think there's implicit references to Trinitarianism maybe in the Old Testament, but there's not explicit. I think when you get to the incarnation, you have a little more explicit references in representing that there's something happening here. Then the early church, their entire point is like, okay, how do we understand these passages? How do we understand these scriptures? How do we understand the person of Jesus Christ? And so this progressive revelation view is just to say, I don't think God is obligated to give us all of the answers all at once, because he wants us to continue seeking him. Now, in the other sense, getting away from like a pastoral teaching, but in another sense where we say, okay, in the alone world, right? So Muslims, they hold to an alone world. Yes. From what I understand, I kind of get different answers when I ask, what do you hold to, I guess, would be my answer. Yeah, so where God exists just as a lonely object. If I said it another way, God exists and nothing else exists. That state of affairs.
Okay, yeah.
So in that state of affairs, like if we take like an attribute like omnipotence, and we say, okay, in that state of affairs where God exists and nothing else exists, it seems like you would have certain divine properties already dispositional because they're not currently doing anything, right? So in the alone world, you would have such a state of affairs in which God exists, but there's no exemplification, there's no sense in which his power or his omnipotence is being exemplified. So it must be like a dispositional property. But the moment God creates anything, whether it's an angel, whether it's heaven, whether it's some spiritual realm, whether it is earth, God's omnipotence then becomes occurrent from the alone world. Would you agree or disagree?
In a sense, yeah, but I just don't see how that would work for knowledge.
Yeah, so for knowledge, I don't think it's problem. So remember, I hold to like a kenosis view to which, okay, there's a dispositional attribute of Jesus that still maintains divinity, to which upon like the resurrection, that's restored to him. So the emptying notion I can affirm in the occurrent sense, Jesus has an occurrent human ability, and right, so he's not going to have an omnipotent ability. He can tap into it. You can see notions in which he taps into it, and is used by God through the miracles that he performs, right? Mm-hmm. With knowledge, I think it's the exact same thing. There's a sense in which you can tap into it. There's a sense in which he can know things that only God would know, like the hearts of men, for example. Whenever the paralytic is lowered down through the roof, that's a common example. So there are some senses in which he can tap into it, but it's not going to be the case that, like, ultimately I would just affirm this. I don't think there's a logical contradiction if you're saying he is omnisciently or dispositionally omniscient or dispositionally omnipotent in comparison with like this two nature view of saying the divine nature and the human nature. If you said he is omniscient as a divine nature and not omniscient as a divine nature, then I think you'll have your P and not P. But I don't think anyone in church history, for the most part, is trying to say that. They may get it wrong, or they may say something contrary, but I don't think they're trying to say, hey, there's some logical contradiction here between these attributes. So it just seems to be the case that, and that's how I cash it out. In the alone world, if God exists and nothing else exists, then there are omniproperties that are dispositional. And if there are some omniproperties that are dispositional, then it's going to be the case that other omniproperties could be dispositional. And I don't think there would be like a contradiction in that.
No, I mean, I don't think there's a necessarily a contradiction. I'm simply saying that I don't think that this is the historically orthodox view, and that someone can respond to the Christological arguments, like, for example, as somebody like William Lane Craig does. I think that and Mullins does the same thing. I think that the historically orthodox positions on Christology results in Jesus being two persons. And Craig's way out of that, and Mullins as well, is to deny that Jesus had a human soul. And I think that does avoid the problem, but I just think it was deemed heretical by the historical church, right? So
yeah,
I think that there's always, I guess what I'm saying is I think there's ways out of the arguments, but I think that they're going to result in historically unorthodox or heretical views. So
yeah, and that was always your thing. It was like, okay, the way I formulate the arguments, it's either going to be the case that you are leaning on a heresy, which as a Protestant I already do, or it's going to be the case that there's going to be some incoherency. But
right, so I've always said that, right? I've always been clear about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean that's fine, but in terms of Michael inspiring philosophy, or Than, I don't know how to say his name. Would they agree with you about your Trinitarian view and the Christological view you explained, or they differ with you on that?
No, so I'm not sure on incarnation. We've never talked incarnation. I'm pretty sure they are monarchical leaning. So me representing them.
Michael has explicitly stated that. He said that he's a monarchical Trinitarian. But would he agree with you in accepting that there's one God in the sense of the Father, and then there could be, in a sense, two gods by predication? Would he accept that, or he would differ with you?
So I don't actually know. So the kind of reason I brought them up is just because you and I have a history, and I used to be really dumb, and so the only reason I brought them up is when the quality of my friends changed. So did my intellect. So did my research. So did my understanding of these topics. And so we haven't talked in depth. So Tim and I, we've talked in depth. Doxastic Mastery or Worldview Mastery. He's very good friends with Sijuwade. I've talked in depth with him, and I, on a regular basis, debate incarnation and coherency of the Trinity on this app. So when I was scrolling today and I saw your name, I'm like, I wonder if that's the guy. So I stuck around, and then I listened, and I heard your sultry little voice, and I'm like, that's actually Jake. So, but
yeah. All right, John. Well, I would recommend, since I just had a debate or discussion with Josh less than a week ago, which you haven't watched.
Yeah, I'll go watch it. 100%.
I would recommend watching that, and then we do these lives once a week on Saturdays at the same time for about 2 hours. So maybe try to check that out, and then come back next Saturday and let me know what you think.
Yeah. I'll try to watch it sometime through the week. I also the last guest. So if you want to talk about it sometime, the question you asked about the innocence of Jesus dying for people. So the view that I hold to is a conjunction view of the atonement, and you and I might have a good conversation there as well if we want to do that next time. But a conjunction view of the atonement, the conjunction between Christus Victor theory of atonement and ransom theory of atonement, in virtue of the scholarship behind the divine council. So I reject.
Yeah,
I reject.
holds to a ransom theory as well, because I heard him recently say, when he was talking to a Muslim, he mentioned the ransom theory. So I think he might hold to that too.
Yeah, I think penal substitutionary atonement. Now there's different versions of it. Some are better than others, but I think penal substitutionary atonement is incredibly problematic. So maybe we can talk about that sometime too.
Yeah, we could talk about it next time.
All right, and I just want to
have 30 minutes left. So I just want to say we have 30 minutes left. So we might want to give another guest.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate the talk. Hit me up on Facebook if you want to talk sometime too, Jake.
Yeah, and then I just want to.
Okay, sounds good.
And I want to just thank you also for your time, because hearing a Christian say, "Yeah, I'm heretical," that was honest. Appreciate that.
Well, John's been doing that with me for probably 5 years.
I just wanted to say that. Thank you for your
time.
Yeah,
I honestly. So I'll be complete. I'll just say this really quick, and then I'll go. Most evangelical Christians that are Protestants don't actually. They take the word heretical to just mean not Christian. They don't understand, in most senses, even some pastor friends that I have, they don't understand the sense in which being a heretic is just rejecting orthodoxy. If you reject orthodoxy, you're a heretic. If you reject transubstantiation, you're a heretic, right? Those sorts of notions. So, yeah, I've never had a problem saying, because I kind of understood the history a little more, I've never had a problem saying I'm a heretic, and just in virtue I don't agree with every single thing within the within the early traditions, but I do think they did have some very good arguments and some things figured out.
Thank you for your time. Have a great day. All right.
Yeah. Catch you later.
Yeah. Take care, John.